What's up guys, it's Jay with Bearded Dad Fishing, and with so many videos on YouTube telling you what you need to do and what you need to buy in order to get started kayak fishing, I wanted to share with you guys 10 things you don't need in order to get on the water, have a good time, and start landing some fish. So make sure you watch to the end for one of my favorite ones. But first, dad joke of the day, why couldn't the teddy bear finish his cupcake? Because he was stuffed. And that dad joke is brought to us by Heriberto Flores of the Facebook group Kayak Fishing Dads. And number one thing you don't need when you start kayak fishing is an expensive kayak. Yes, it's a super easy trap to fall into to think that, hey, I need an expensive kayak if I want to be successful, but that's just not the reality. When you're online on these Facebook groups, looking at these people's setups and watching these YouTubers, you can fall into that mindset that you need something expensive, but you don't. There's some really great brands under $1,000 that you can find. I actually did a video with my top 10 favorite kayaks under $1,000, which I will link down below, and you could take a look at that. There's also some price-friendly brands such as Perception Kayaks. Crescent Kayaks has some great options under $1,000, and Three Waters as well. Of course, if you want a pedal kayak or something with a motor, you're gonna pay a little bit more than a paddle-only kayak. But if the kayak you want is more expensive, consider looking at the used kayaks in your area. And I know that could be a scary thing to do because when I bought my first used kayak, I was nervous about if it was gonna have holes in it, a cracked hole, if it was gonna not be taken care of. But the good thing is that you can check it out. You can ask for a water test, which I recommend. If you're buying any used kayak, ask if you could try it on the water and ride it around for half an hour just to make sure no water is leaking into the hull. But look on places like Facebook Marketplace. Again, that's where I bought my kayak, and it was $1,500 cheaper than if I were to buy it brand new. Craigslist is super underrated, but a lot of people still post on Craigslist. So look on there, look on apps such as OfferUp and Let Go. There's lots of different ways to find used kayaks in your area. And besides, the market right now is super saturated with used kayaks. People are buying them and not liking them for whatever reason, and they're selling them, and you can save 25, 30, 40, sometimes even 50% off of the retail price. And the second thing you don't need when you start kayak fishing is a bunch of modifications and gear. Don't get wrapped up doing all these mods in your head before you even have your kayak on the ground. Again, this is another easy trap to fall into because we all spend tons of hours watching these YouTube videos of dudes doing these modifications. I have a bunch of videos of my modifications, so it's easy to get wrapped up in doing that, but you can easily spend $500, $1,000 or more on mods and gear that you might not even use at the end of the day. So it's really a great way to save money to just wait a little bit before you start modifying the kayak and buying a lot of these peripheral accessories. A couple things you definitely want to have before you get out on the water is you're gonna need a PFD. That should be the first thing you buy after you buy a kayak. A good life jacket, a personal flotation device, hands down. And of course, get a good kayak cart, which we'll go over in just a little bit, and your fishing basics, which you probably already have, a fishing rod, some tackle, pliers, lip grips, and things like that. So if you hold off on buying all these accessories, it gives you a good chance to get out there, see what you like about your kayak, see what you don't like, and how you can modify it to be the perfect fit for you. And the third thing you don't need in order to start kayak fishing is a bunch of fishing rods. You can start off with just 1 or 2 fishing rods and then build up from there. Again, watching these YouTubers, watching these people online, you might think I need 6, 7, 8, 10 rods to go out fishing and have a successful day, and when that's just absolutely not the truth. A lot of kayak tournament anglers will have 6, 8, 10 rods with them. I usually carry 6 or 7 rods with me at a time, but I started off with 2 rods, and you can even start off with 1 without a problem. I would prefer to have 1 quality rod over 2 or 3 or 4 lesser quality rods. And when you're ready to upgrade and step up your rods, consider a company that's domestic and a company that's known for quality fishing rods. I use my Impulse rods, and this is my 7-foot medium fast spinning rod. Absolutely love this thing. They have great options. So this is what I use for all my soft plastics when I'm out there fishing. And it's a great all-around rod. So even if you only want to have a handful of rods, pick something that's all around that you can throw the majority of your lures on. What I love about the Impulse Rods website is that you can shop the rods by techniques and by lures. So that way, if you're specifically looking for a rod for a specific type of technique, it will show you all the rods that will work for that technique. So it's very nifty in finding a rod that works just for you. I'll make sure to link Impulse Rods down below if you want to check them out. And if you're gonna buy something, use discount code BEARD10 for 10% off your full order. And the fourth thing you don't need to start kayak fishing is a trailer. And while trailering is, in my opinion, one of the best, easiest, fastest, most efficient ways to get into the water, you absolutely don't need a trailer to get started. In fact, when I got started for the first 2.5 years, I just took my kayak and put it in the bed of my truck. And that's totally fine. There's lots of guys that continue to rooftop their kayak after years. Now, if you're gonna rooftop, just keep in mind that you're gonna want a lighter fishing kayak because it's gonna be easier to get up. Now, if you're rooftopping on a sedan, again, that's gonna be a lot easier than if you're rooftopping on a big SUV. So again, just things to keep in mind before you buy your kayak is if you're gonna rooftop, get something lighter. And if you're not trailering your kayak, then you need to get a good kayak cart to get your kayak from your car to the water and from the water back to your car. So get a good kayak cart. I used the Wilderness Systems cart for many years and I loved it. However, it is pricey. So you can get something like the Weaver heavy duty kayak cart, which I have right here. And I actually did a video comparing this with the Wilderness Systems cart. And I gotta tell you, for being so much cheaper, I am very impressed with this kayak cart. The wheels are the same size, the bunks are the same size, and it collapses the same way. And it's a fraction of the price at about $80 right now. So I'll make sure to link the video comparing the two below, and I'll link down the Weaver cart as well. So if you want to get a good kayak cart, I definitely recommend it, and you save a bunch of money in the meantime. And the fifth thing you don't need in order to start kayak fishing is experience. And yes, that might sound silly to some, but a lot of people don't take that step forward because they lack the experience either in kayaking or in fishing. But if you never do it, then you'll never get the experience. There's lots of tools in place to help you. And as long as you're safe and you have your safety gear, your PFD, your whistle, your air horn, little first aid kit, all those basics that I've covered in other videos and I will link down below as well, you'll be good. Just make sure you take small, comfortable steps in order to do that. And when I say there's tools out there to help you, a lot of them are right here on your phone. So you can always have it with you and they're not that expensive. Look at something like the Omnia fishing app. And if you use their Premium Pro subscription, it gives you a ton of information. You can plan your trips before, you can look at it while you're on the water, and it covers things like weather. So you can see if it's gonna rain, you can see the storms, the temperatures, and of course, use it to look for the wind. Wind can change really quick on the water, and if you're not ready, it can put you in a really sticky spot while you're out there, especially if you're fishing bigger waters. It's really important to keep up with that, and they have excellent wind maps on Omnia. In addition to the weather and the forecast, they have other great fishing maps as well. You could look at the depth charts, the vegetation charts, the bottom hardness that gives you the water clarity, the water temps, a lot of great information that you can even layer on top of one another on the map so that you can look at multiple things at once. In addition to that, you could look at fishing reports as well. You could plug in your favorite lakes and see what fishing reports are out there so you can see what people are catching them on, what species of fish they're going for, what depth they're at, and basically all the information that they jot down when they catch the fish. The best part about the Omnia Premium Pro subscription is that it's only $50 a year. Yes, that's super cheap. That's less than $5 a month, and it's totally worth it. You even get special discounts off the Omnia Fishing store if you have a Premium Pro subscription. And the sixth thing you don't need to start kayak fishing is indoor space for your kayak. And while a lot of guys prefer to keep their kayak indoors, you can safely keep it outdoors without any issues as long as you take the right measures. Like making sure that the kayak is properly supported. Don't lean a kayak on its side for a long time. Don't keep it upright leaning against the wall either. That puts a lot of pressure on one side of the kayak, and these fishing kayaks can get pretty heavy. Make sure it's on a level surface, and if the manufacturer recommends to store it upright, then do that. If it recommends to store it upside down, then do that as well. Just make sure you know what your manufacturer recommends for long-term storage. The biggest factor of keeping your kayak safe outside is keeping it out of the sun. The sun will absolutely ravage and damage your kayak, possibly to the point of no return. So to help with that, you have to make sure you get a quality cover. In my opinion, the best covers right now on the market are by Carver by Covercraft. They make absolutely great covers, and I've had one on my autopilot for more than a year. My autopilot has been out in the driveway in the sun, in the rain, in the snow, in the ice, and it's been kept absolutely dry and protected from the sun. It's a strong material and much thicker than the covers that you can buy on Amazon. And I know this because I bought a cover on Amazon, and within the first week of being out there in the sun, the cover ripped. So that's exactly when I jumped over to Carver and spoke with them, and they got a cover over to me. I love that cover. It's high quality, double stitching all over, and it brings a ton of straps so you can strap it underneath your kayak so it doesn't move. And even if you're not storing your kayak outside, I still use my Carver cover for transporting my kayak as well. I'll make sure to put a link down below so you guys can check out the Carver by Covercraft covers. They fit huge kayaks. My kayak's almost 14 foot and it fits perfectly. And the seventh thing you don't need to start kayak fishing is a fish finder. I don't recommend getting a fish finder right out the gate. Regardless if you're experienced at fishing, if you're experienced at fishing on a boat, take your time in getting a fish finder. Learn the layout of your kayak before you jump into that. Because once you get a fish finder, then you need to get a battery, you have to get a mounts, you have to do all this other type of rigging stuff. So wait a little bit, and especially if you're starting off and you're a little bit more new to fishing itself, I would certainly wait so that you can get not just the layout of your kayak, but also the layout of fishing and get your fishing knowledge up a little bit by getting all those visual cues that aren't found on a fish finder. I waited a year before I got a fish finder on my rig, and I'm glad I did so because it really helped me learn the kayak and learn more of the sport of kayak fishing before diving into the electronic side of things. And when it's time for you to make that jump to a fish finder, don't fall for the next trap that tells you need to get an expensive fish finder, because you don't have to spend $1,000 or $1,500 on a fish finder. There's lots of options out there that are budget friendly and get you exactly what you need as far as the information goes on your kayak. This is my unit, which is a Garmin 93 SV. I absolutely love the Garmin's. They're full touch screen, and they also have, you know, your 2D sonar, your down scan, your side scan, but you can also get that with other units as well, which is why I'm saying you don't need to get a really expensive unit. Garmin has a great unit called the Striker 4 CV, and that is a fantastic beginner fish finder. It gives you all the information you need to know, your water temp, your depth, your structure of what's beneath you. It also has, of course, the 2D sonar, and it has down scan, and so that it helps clarify what's beneath you and you can see it in another way. And for only $180 brand new, it's hard to go wrong with that unit. There's so many good reviews online, and I would definitely recommend it, and I'm gonna link it down below so you can check it out. And number 8 on the list of things you don't need to start kayak fishing is an expensive paddle. You don't need to spend $200, $300, $400 on a paddle. However, how much you spend on a paddle is going to largely depend on whether you have a pedal drive or motorized kayak versus having a paddle only kayak. Now, if you have a pedal drive or a motor on your kayak, I say buy the cheapest paddle that you can. I've been rocking with a $20 paddle since I even started, and it's been just fine, because what you're going to use that for is mainly just launching yourself, pushing off the bank, or in an emergency situation, if your battery dies on your motor or if your prop breaks on your pedal drive, then you're gonna bust out the backup paddle and use it. However, if you have a paddle only kayak, then you have to get something that's tailored a little bit more to you and something that's a little more comfortable. There's a lot of options in that $80 to $100 range that would fit the bill just fine. You're just gonna wanna make sure of a couple things. That A, it's long enough for you so it's not too short, because if it's too short, you're gonna have to kind of like scoop more with your paddle. So make sure it's long enough. That's going to depend largely on your height and how big and wide your kayak is. In addition to the length, price is also going to be determined on the material of the paddle. Some paddles are just lighter than others, depending if they're made of aluminum, if they're fiberglass, if they're carbon, and honestly, only you can decide what's right for you. My personal opinion is to start off in that middle range of $80 to $100 and then upgrade later on if you need it. The thing is, a lot of guys start in their paddle kayaks, and before they know it, they're in a pedal kayak or even a motorized kayak, so their paddle doesn't come into play nearly as much. And number 9 on the list of things that you don't need in order to start kayak fishing are friends that fish. Yes, don't let the fact that you don't have fishing buddies hold you back from starting your kayak fishing journey. There's a ton of ways of meeting other guys, including at the ramp, but also online. So if you're not part of the Facebook group Kayak Fishing Dads, head on over there and join us. And if you've been a part of that group, you'll know we have over 26,000 guys all over the US, and there's lots of guys that have met other local anglers through that group. One of my favorite things about the group is not just the fact that guys are meeting and fishing together, but also is that it's a place where they feel comfortable asking questions. You can go on there and share pictures of your setup. You go on there and ask questions about the best fishing rod, the best fish finder for a beginner, etc. It's really unlimited. There's lots of guys on there with tons of experience. There's also guys on there with very limited experience, and they all just help each other out, which is really cool. Another way to get connected to local kayak anglers is by supporting your local tournament trails. Here in Eastern Pennsylvania, there's Kayak Anglers of Eastern Pennsylvania and there's Slay Nation, both of which I joined in my second and third year kayak fishing, and I met some awesome dudes. And I've really enjoyed meeting those guys through the tournament trails and the guys I've met online as well. So at the end of the day, you really don't need friends that fish, because you're gonna make fishing friends if you plug into these online communities or these local communities that are already there. And the last thing you don't need in order to start kayak fishing is an expensive kayak tackle crate. There's a ton of options out there when it comes to these crates, and you'll find them all over the place. Some of the most well-known ones, of course, are the Black Pack Pro by Yak Attack, the Flambeau Tough Crate, the Kayak Crate by Wilderness Systems, and all the other ones as well. All of these have their own merits and they all cost different amounts. However, you don't need to spend $200 or even $100 to get your own tackle crate that's gonna last you for years. This is my DIY tackle crate that I made when I first started kayak fishing, and it held up with 3 years of abuse before I upgraded to another crate. And it does everything you need a crate to do. It has tons of storage on the inside, it has storage on the top, it has bungees as well to hold things down, it has a closure that's just really bungee and a carabiner, and of course it has rod holders on either side. These rod holders are just zip tied on there, but again, they put up with 3 years of hard abuse out on the water, out in the sun, getting wet, and it's really held up really well. I created a video and I will link it down below on how I made this DIY crate, all the tools and the supplies you need, and how much you can expect to spend. For a crate like this, you could spend anywhere from 20 to 40 bucks, depending if you have the crate. If you already have the crate at home, then it's gonna be even cheaper. I found these in my garage that I didn't even know I had, and it's just 2 crates, and that's what makes the lid and of course the bottom super hardcore, and this thing puts up with a ton of abuse. And if you thought this list of 10 things you don't need for kayak fishing was helpful, make sure you check out my 10 favorite kayaks under $1,000 right here. So until next time guys, peace and God bless.